Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I'm Andy Signor, and I'm so excited. I've had so much fun going through all of the films of the past decade. I started with 2010 and going all the way through 2019, and now it's time to go through the year 2017, the best films of 2017. Now, look. The way this works is I'm going to go through my top 10. I'm going to stop before the top 3, tell you a bunch of films that almost made the cut and some films that you might be surprised didn't make the cut because they just weren't favorites of mine, as well as my worst of the year. So I hope you'll stay tuned. Check out the ads to support the channel. I've been building these out. I really appreciate it. If you just caught now, you can go back, check out the playlist to watch all of them. So let's get to it. 2017, I should preface, was a tough year for me. For those that followed me, 2017 is when I sort of, especially the second half of 2017 was a really tough time for me. So I had never really got to talk about my favorite films that year. I sort of stopped watching films for a little bit and then caught up. But my list might be a little odd because of that. Again, personal preference, especially my number one. I think some of you are going to go, what? But I'll tell you why as we get there. So get ready for the potentially weird ride. But let's do it. Gotta finish this ticket out, all these videos, and it's time to get through number 10 of 2017, a film that I enjoyed, that freaked me out, that did very well, and that film was It Chapter 1. Now, It Chapter 2, I was excited for, Bill Hader, everybody bringing in, and I thought they just completely missed the mark, overly long. Just didn't care. It Chapter 1 was a really fantastic new adaptation of something we had seen before and read about, but I thought they did a fantastic job with. Watching the kids, it felt like Stand By Me, which Stephen King also wrote. I loved Skarsgård as Pennywise. He was fantastic. The scene with Georgie in the sewer and the red balloon, so many iconic moments. It Chapter 1, I think, very worthy. A really great scary movie as I went through the films of that year. Still held up for me and something I remembered really enjoying and will continue to enjoy. I don't know if I will continue enjoying it as a two-part film, even though it's supposed to be with the book. I think it's fine as a Chapter 1, and I think it's almost better as a Chapter 1 in my opinion. So I like that it's not even called Chapter 1, it's just called It. So for that reason alone, It, I still got to give major props. Freaked me out. Pennywise is fantastic. The kids are really fantastic. I was a big fan of this film. It'll creep you out too, and you will float too. So It came in at number 10 on my list. Next up was a film that I saw, and I didn't love it right away just because it came out at an odd time in my life. But I went back and rewatched it, and I enjoyed it much more upon repeat viewings. And I've come to love its director tremendously, and that's Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok. I wasn't as crazy when I first saw it, but then I just missed a lot of it because I was in a weird headspace. And then I realized sort of how fun and different this film was. I loved Thor versus Hulk. I love when Hulk, he shows up and goes, I know him. It just filled with a lot of fun. And why am I just blanking? Kate Blanchett. Kate Blanchett as the villain, as the sister, is a great turn. Tessa Thompson was a great addition. Nice to have Loki back. It just so many supporting characters throughout the whole film. It's just Marvel done in a quirky new way that was exciting to watch. It was funny. You cared for him. I felt like Chris Hemsworth just kept getting better and better with his Thor movies, because when Thor 1 came out, I give Kenneth Branagh a lot of props. That was a hard movie to do, to convey all that and make it be something that we were like, whoa, Asgard and all these gods. But Chris Hemsworth's fine in it, but really hard to do. As the films progress and they let him sort of get to know the character, Chris Hemsworth has created such a fun and important part of the MCU. It's nice to see Thor is still around and will be around with Love and Thunder and everything else coming out. But Ragnarok really set the tone, and I think easily the best Thor movie, and just so much fun that I had to give Thor Ragnarok and Taika Waititi props, putting it in at number 9 on the list. All right, number 8. This one just emotionally hit me. I think it's beautifully done, and it's Pixar's Coco. It's not my favorite Pixar. I like it better over time as well, but the themes in it are really strong, poignant. They're beautiful, and it's just a stunning animation. And I really enjoy the journey. I think it's an important journey for kids. It's fun. It's got twists and turns. Remember Me is one of those Disney songs. I said this in one of my previous lists. In order for a Pixar, Disney, or any of these animated movies to get me, it's got to hit the tear ducts. Coco does it near the end. It's a really touching story that it's important that we remember our loved ones. And it's grown with me and my family. They love it as well. And it's become more of a personal preference than I think I did when it first came out. But I've come to really love Coco. I think it's a really pretty story. Great animation, great music, great adventure, and works all around. So bravo on Pixar in this one. It's a good one. It's not like Inside Out levels to me or some of the other higher ends, but it's definitely strong enough to make the top 10 of this year. So Coco, great work. That's one where it's like, good, perfect standalone movie. We don't ever need to see any more from the world. I wish they'd just give us more films like this that feel different, important. Thumbs up for Coco. All right. Coming in at number 7, this one, this was the last sort of screening I saw. I met the director, Denis Villeneuve. I got to do the junket and stuff, and that when it all happened, I was really into it. And then some stuff happened to me, and I just sort of spaced on the movie and never really thought about it. And then I went back and rewatched it again. I really love this movie. It held up for me, beautiful to watch, and that is Blade Runner 2049. Now, look. This film is not everyone loves it as much, but I think it's a great detective story, a great sequel to a film that I'll be honest, I'm not crazy about Blade Runner 1. There's so many cuts, and then finally I did check them all out, and it's a great film. Harrison Ford's good, but it's so slow. There's some cool ideas, and it's visually stunning, especially for the time. But I thought Blade Runner 2049 I don't know, there were new, interesting aspects. I loved the subplot with his artificial intelligence, spoiler alert, his artificial intelligence girlfriend, Joy, played by Ana de Armas, who also was great in Knives Out. But that whole idea of like, can you love a robot? It was like her, but more interesting. Her was pretty interesting too. But just in a sci-fi adventure action film, it took it to a bunch of interesting dilemmas and places of, can she actually love him? That I don't think her really did. I thought a really interesting way to bring back, again, spoiler alerts. I'm not going to say the spoilers, but talking about some of the themes, I thought a really interesting way of how they brought back Decker and Harrison Ford. And then the sort of the twists as they unfold, you think they're going one way and they end up going another way. And even Jared Leto, I thought us a good performance. It's just an overall really visually stunning movie. I think there's more to learn from it upon repeat viewings. And my God, how beautiful. Roger Deakins finally, after 14 nominations, finally won Best Cinematography, which was so well-deserved. Some stunning works of art in this film, from the neon lights to the natural lighting to everything he's doing in that film. It's just stunning. And Blade Runner 2049, all the themes that it's asking, just sort of it starts with sort of an interest. If you don't know the world of Blade Runner, they have these things called replicants that are sort of, they work for the police department, and they're Blade Runners, officers who hunt down and kill rogue replicants. These replicants are sort of, they're robots, they're androids. And this idea in the beginning of the film was, because they've eliminated them and they're now all work for the police department. But this idea of one of them went rogue and might have been able to have a baby, which creates this whole other interesting dilemma. And then things unfold, and all these questions are asked about this level of when we get to a point where we have these replicants, you can't even tell them apart from humans, they're robots. It just pushes the boundaries and ideas of what can be real and what should they get and what rights should they have and all these things that are just fascinating. So Denis Villeneuve, I thought, did a beautiful job of revisiting this world, and I thought respected it tremendously. A very rare reboot sequel that I thought was just as good as, if not potentially better, than the original. I know that's blasphemy for some of you, but I'm not a huge Blade Runner guy. And Blade Runner 2049, I was really invested in, and I enjoyed it. It was like beautiful, it was slow, it was artistic, just like the original. But I felt like it still was. It was going at a little bit of a faster pace that I just preferred, and I thought still asked a bunch of really interesting, tough questions. So Blade Runner 2049 is number 7 on my list. Number 6, I really, really enjoyed this film. I think it's one of the best adaptations of its comic book character that's out there. I'll be honest. I remember seeing it the first time, thought the same thing as I rewatched it. It has all the themes that you'd want from a movie about this character, but surprisingly, it works in a Lego format, and that's the Lego Batman movie. I really did not expect to enjoy this movie as much as I did. Director Chris McKay does a wonderful job. It's funny, it's full of heart, it's got sort of honest, Deadpool-esque moments where it's just sort of breaking all the fourth walls rather, and making fun of all the previous movies, but it still feels like it's its own Batman, and Will Arnett gives a fantastic performance. Michael Cera, everybody in this film, even Zach Galifianakis as the Joker. There's so many little wonderful cameos from all the villains, and then other things happen, other cameos. It's just a really fun movie. But beyond just sort of taking the Lego movie and sort of doing it in a sort of an IP of the DC heroes, I loved how it had this really wonderful story between Batman and Robin, and sort of Batman's loneliness and how he has to work together. It was able to take real themes of the Batman movie, but make it family friendly, but still feel like a Batman project. He's obviously dumber, and the character of this Lego Batman is sillier than most Batman, but it still felt like a really strong, realistic Batman movie. So the fact they were able to pull that off with such an iconic character and make it work and make it funny and make you invested, make you laugh, make you cry, all those things. Bravo to that team. I would watch another one of those. The Lego movies have sort of, I think, fallen apart. The Lego Movie 2, not nearly as good than they did Ninjago, which was awful. I don't know how much longer the Lego format's going to actually work, but I would give Lego Batman a sequel and a second opportunity to see where it can go. I don't think it'll be as good, but these are characters that I think were worthy of revisiting. It'll be interesting to see where Lego goes, because I know now Warner Brothers sold it, so I don't know if they'll still have those rights. It's going to be very interesting to see. Universal, I think, bought Lego now, so who knows if we'll get any more, but I got to give props to the Lego Batman movie for making such a fun entry into the Lego movie franchise, and I think being the best one of Lego movies, and I think honestly one of the best Batman movies. I'll be honest, it's really cute, funny, and it feels like a Batman movie, weirdly enough. Anyway, that's my favorite number 6. But we're not done with DC. There was another big DC movie that came out that year, and this was an easy vote for number 5 on my list, and that was Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman. I really enjoyed this film. I've never been a huge Wonder Woman fan. I mean, I like her. But I've never, I didn't watch the Linda Carter show, and she hasn't had a lot of opportunities aside from the comics to really shine without sort of seeming silly. And here, Patty Jenkins stepped in after Zack Snyder set up sort of this vision and cast Gal Gadot, who I thought did fantastic. And they just surprised me tremendously with not only an amazing action movie starring a female superhero that was worthy and interesting, strong, but then they made this amazing decision in casting Chris Pine and giving him this role where he really has to sort of take second fiddle, and let her shine. But they let them fall in love. It's just a beautiful love story and a realistic one, and so different than what we're used to in sort of these superhero movies. And I really thought their chemistry took this even to another level. The Chris Pine Wonder Woman subplot is just fantastic. You're rooting for them. You understand why they're falling for each other. And then Chris Pine's sort of the seeming hero that we know and love, but then takes the back seat to let her shine, and doesn't do it in sort of a go women way. I mean, it just does it in a realistic, natural way that makes it a really go women go type of thing without having to show it. That scene where she steps out into the trenches and steps up and finally becomes Wonder Woman. I had chills when that happened. It was just such a beautiful, wonderful moment to just make her be the strong hero for who she is on her own merits and everything else. It was just so well done. Patty Jenkins just, you could tell, knew this material, believed in it so much, and knew exactly how to handle it. And it was fantastic. And all the stuff on her planet of, I can't say it, but with Robin Wright and everything. Who would have thought that would have worked? But it weirdly did. It was like Thor and Asgard. They made it work. This world of gods run by women, and it worked somehow. They managed to figure out how to make, which could have been so silly. It could have been so stupid and silly, just like Thor would have. But they made it work. They made it believable. They made it fun. You bought it, and then you understood why she was going to the next thing, and it made her character and sort of her not understanding the world work even better. So overall, just a really brilliant script. Really, the third act is a little. That's what ultimately doesn't make it a lot higher. Third act against the bad guy. It's kind of very hokey, and we've seen it a million times. But everything up until then, and even through it. I had so much fun with it. I was invested in her. I wanted to see more of her, and I thought Chris Pine was fantastic. Robin Wright was fantastic. It's a really, really strong entry, and I think one of DC's best. I would have loved to see. I cannot wait to see her sequel. I hope it's good as this. We'll see. But either way, Wonder Woman on its own merits deserves super recognition for this decade, and especially of the year 2017. All right, and now. Number 4. Before I go into my top 3 and the other things that didn't make the list, it's time for number 4, a movie I really, really enjoyed. It's really sweet, funny, heartbreaking, dramatic, true story, an awkward true story, as it says on its poster, and that's The Big Sick. A true story, by Kumail Nanjiani and his real-life wife, Emily V. Gordon. They wrote this film about how they met. And it's directed by Michael Showalter, who you may remember from Wet Hot American Summer and all those stuff he's done with David Wayne, everybody. His best film by far. He's done a bunch of interesting food. He did My Name is Doris. He's been doing some interesting work. I'm excited to see what else he does. But Kumail Nanjiani and Emily V. Gordon bring this wonderful script, touching script of their odd but relatable love story that happens where he is a Pakistani comedian and he doesn't want an arranged marriage from his parents, but they sort of are insisting and they'll disown him otherwise. He goes out on a date with this Emily character, and they begin a relationship in secret, and then she discovers that there's a box of the pictures of the woman that his parents are trying to arrange him with. And she gets very upset that he never said anything, and she breaks up with him, and he's all distraught. And they sort of separate and unfairly, and then she falls into a coma. She has this life-threatening illness. They have to put her in an induced coma through a lung infection she has, and that's when they call him. He finds out and he shows up. Her parents know that they've had a nasty breakup, but he's there anyway, and he feels sort of at first he feels like he has to be there, but then as he sort of learns he kind of wants to be there and he misses her and feels bad for the way things went. He meets the parents. The parents by Emily's parents are fantastically played by Ray Romano and Holly Hunter. And there's just these amazing scenes where Kumail is learning sort of what he did wrong and how he matures in his relationship and stand up against his parents and all these things through the parents and learning their own faults. There's this really amazing scene where Ray Romano's character opens up to him because they disagree on sort of the life support decisions and things that are happening. And Kumail and him actually agree, and the mom doesn't and sends him on the couch, and they have this really interesting scene. It's just a really touching, heartfelt, romantic comedy that I really enjoyed. It felt really real and funny. New voices in the space of Kumail and Emily V. Gordon that I cannot wait to see what else they do. They've been very funny and talented, and it's a really wonderful film if you haven't seen it already. Highly recommend The Big Sick. All right, so that was number 4. Now it's time to go through a bunch of the films that didn't make the cut, some films that almost made the cut, and my worst of the year. But first, here, a quick commercial break. Thank you. Hopefully that worked. Sometimes the mid-rolls don't play. But if they did, thank you for supporting the channel. All right, before we get to our top 3, I want to go through some of these movies that almost made it. No potential order, but I really liked The Disaster Artist by James Franco. Really interesting and funny movie about the making of The Room with Seth Rogen and Paul Scheer's in it. A bunch of really talented, funny people are in this movie. And it's really fun to watch it. It's weirdly, it's like Ed Wood, I think my favorite Tim Burton movie. It works in a very similar way, but it's fun to watch the recreations of The Room and how ridiculous it is, but then also sort of this interesting, creative, you end up caring for him a bit. It's just a really interesting behind the scenes meta movie that I really enjoyed, and didn't let me down. I also really liked Split with James McAvoy. I love that twist. I thought one of M. Night Shyamalan's best. McAvoy's performance is unreal. Just this contained thriller it was Shyamalan's best in a really long time. And then that ending at the end was just like, wow, I wish Glass had been as exciting as Split. It didn't end up being as great as I hoped it would. But Split, I have to give props. It was a really, really strong movie at that time. Also, it wasn't really going to make my list, but I did want to call out Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets. Man, Luc Besson it's really kind of cool looking. And the first half is awesome. It's just awfully miscast. Terrible duo of the cast with Dean DeHaan and I forget her name, but from Suicide Squad. Really terrible casting. Those two just did not have any chemistry, and to me ruined the movie. But even beyond that, there's some really exciting sequences I'd never seen before in a really long time in a science fiction film, and I really wish it would have had been recast and done a little bit better. But it loses a little steam near the end, but it's one you should rewatch sometime. It's just so fascinating and visually stunning. Valerian, very underrated and didn't get nearly enough props. Luc Besson is such a good visual director, but check that out someday. It is worth mentioning. And another one that no one really talked about but was really cool was this film called Life, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds. It's this movie about these astronauts in space, and then they find this alien life form that becomes this sort of weird goo that sort of takes over the ship, and it's like Alien, but a little, but more updated and more crazy. It's a really exciting film. I really enjoyed it, but such a missed opportunity. The film was made by Sony, and then it spoiler alert, it ends with sort of this lap of goo landing into the world, and it was this brilliant opportunity to just do out of nowhere, it's Venom. It's the goo of Venom, and it would have been such a cool Venom prequel that they could have easily, just two little things if Sony had been paying attention. Some pull stringer guy had known. It would have been a brilliant opening to the Spider-Verse and Venom, and you wouldn't have to worry about who you cast or all this stuff. Or you could have Tom Hardy open a cat, whatever. But and it was so close to it was just such a missed opportunity. But even said, I almost pretend it is because it's really fun in that way. But Life, check it out. Surprisingly cool movie. And then I really did like Get Out. It's way better than Us, and I thought put Jordan Peele on the map for a good reason. We'll see how well that keeps going because he's been hit or miss for me. But I really did like Get Out. I like Brigsby Bear from Kyle Mooney and Dave McCrary, who did a bunch of stuff on YouTube ages ago called Good Neighbor. So before SNL, they were so much funnier back in the day on YouTube. They're still funny, but they're awkward humor. But man, that's Good Neighbor on YouTube. Go look up that channel. Really funny stuff. And they went on and made this film called Brigsby Bear, which is just with Mark Hamill. It's a weird movie, but I really, really enjoyed it. Also, I did like Spider-Man Homecoming. And what was the other one I was going to look up? Oh, The Florida Project with Willem Dafoe was really fascinating movie. And John Wick Chapter 2, I might argue, is better than 1. I don't think 3 is as good. But John Wick 2 is just so much more fun. Those were the ones that I really enjoyed as well. I didn't see Call Me By Your Name. I just didn't see it. I never got around to it. Everyone sort of loves that movie. I didn't like Dunkirk. I mean, I liked it. It's beautiful, but it's just not a movie that I need to see ever again. It didn't connect to me as other war movies go. It's very low on my list. But beautifully shot, good movie. I respect it, but I know there's like Tarantino and others like, oh, best films of the decade. It just didn't connect to me on that same level. As well as, what was I say? 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Also didn't love it. It was good. She's good, but not one I want to rewatch. Sam Rockwell was good in that, but still not one I want to watch. And then The Post was just a yawn for me. Another Spielberg miss. I really wanted to watch the movie. I tried twice. I kept falling asleep. I respect everybody in it, but it wasn't my cup of tea. And The Shape of Water. I like parts of it. I love Guillermo del Toro, but it was such a weird movie and not in a fun way. I never understood why she was sleeping with the fish monster. I just couldn't get it. It was so weird. And then goes dark, but then it's totally an odd movie, not a full horror movie, more of a love story. And I never bought the love story. So Shape of Water, I don't know how it got everything it did. Wasn't my thing. And then as for and then Jumanji was pretty good start of a franchise. I just want to call it Jumanji. And then The Last Jedi. Look, I didn't like it at the time. It's grown on me. I'll be honest. It's not the worst movie of the year. I've seen it on a lot of people's best of that year. And a lot of people are putting in the best of the decade. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think, I think history will show that Last Jedi was better than everyone gave a crap for, especially now that we saw how it all ended. There are massive problems with it. Don't get me wrong, but I've said my piece in that. I'm sure I will in other future videos. But Last Jedi, not my worst and by any means, and not the best, but better than I think most people want to give it credit for. As for the worst of the year, Justice League was there. There's 3. Justice League was really close. I really didn't like Justice League. It was such a bummer of a movie. How do you mess that up? And they did. I'm sorry. I don't care what the extended cut with Zack Snyder and all this stuff will do. I mean, granted, it can only get better, but I don't know. I don't think you can fix what Warner Brothers kept messing up. There's so much just rushedness that it's just such a bummer. Yes, I'd love to see the Snyder cut. Don't get me wrong. I do. But I still that movie as it is currently, it's a train wreck, and I'm so frustrated and disappointed about it. Now I would watch the Snyder Cut in a second, but I still don't know how you get past all of Warner Brothers notes and everything else to make that be what we all really want it to be, and what I think Zack Snyder's original vision was gonna be. But until I see a Snyder Cut, Justice League is not a good film. But two films were worse than me. Second worst, Mother by Darren Aronofsky. This is like sort of Uncut Gems, although I think more people hate Mother. A lot of people love Uncut Gems, the one that came out with Sandler this year. And I'll get to that when I do 2019. But Mother, I just really couldn't understand it. I mean, I understood what it was. It was an allegory to religion and the Bible. And there was obviously, there were things that I get it, but I didn't care. And it was just this, let's keep punching you in the face, audience, while we go. And I show how much of a jerk I am. And we'll just make this woman suffer the whole movie. It really upset me. I didn't like it at all. And I just never want to watch it again. But nothing was worse than Baywatch. Oh, I love you, Dwayne. DJ, that was a bomb and a half. So unfunny, not exciting, weirdly cast. I do like Zac Efron, but man, I don't know what you guys were doing with that movie. It was just not funny. It wasn't action, tonal mess. It just literally was just stuck looking at everybody in their bathing suits. The guys and the girls just being like, all right, well, they look nice. And it just felt at the end, I'm like, that's what Baywatch is supposed to be. And I'm like, ugh, this is just dumb. Why was this the big franchise we were rebringing? Go back, watch it. It's really just guys and girls running in slow-mo. And that's ultimately what the best part of the movie was too. So huge letdown, waste of movie and waste of talented people. It just was a mess. Sorry, Baywatch. And I remember DJ getting all upset when Scott Mantz like called out this was a bomb, and DJ got all Dwayne the Rock Johnson's got all like on Twitter like, well, blah blah. No, this was a bomb. That was a misstep. We all have them. He had some serious wins, including Jumanji that year, which was way better. But Baywatch, woof. All right, now time for top 3. Boom, boom, boom. All right, this one was tough. My number one pick is one you're not going to expect and you're going to give me crap for. I'll explain it when I get there. But number 2 and number 3 have gone back and forth because I like them both a lot and probably could be in a lot of your top lists. So let's go with number 3. That's where I deemed it because from a rewatchability standpoint, I'd rather watch number 2. So I put number 3 as the wonderful film by Greta Gerwig, Lady Bird. I really, really like this movie. Saoirse Ronan, that's how you say it, guys. Saoirse rhymes with inertia. Ronan doesn't look like it when you see it spelled. It's like Saoirse, but Saoirse Ronan is just remarkable in this film. She is showing herself to be a fantastic actress. Could become a Meryl Streep if she really keeps it going. She's doing some fantastic work in her films every year. She's pulling out something between Brooklyn last year and this one, and then we got Little Women this year. She and so many others she's done. She's one to watch. She's wonderful, and she's really great in this. And Greta Gerwig, who wrote and directed this, it's a wonderful story. As all these things say, it's true. Funny, moving, superb, heartbreaking, original, fresh, funny. It's pretty close to a perfect movie, I think. It's really well done. It's a story set in 2003 of this girl who goes to a Catholic high school in Sacramento, California, and she wants to call herself Lady Bird because she's sort of full of herself, like a lot of us are, senior year of high school, think we know it all, and she wants to go to the prestigious college, and she sounds like really annoying, honestly, but it's sort of like a lot of people I know in my life and people who've sort of been there, just how pretentious you want to be when you are becoming an adult and you think you know it all, and then you really realize you're just falling on your face over and over again because no one really knows at that age. It's a terrible point with relationships and what to do with your life and fighting your parents who you don't think actually do know better, but they do. It's just a really touching and I think honest, raw look at growing up in that period between high school and college. A lot of films have done it, but Lady Bird did it in sort of that period of 2000, I think is hard to deny as a really fantastic character study and portrait of that era. Great performances, great writing, great direction. And it introduced us and brought us Timothy Chalamet, which everybody loves. I mean, he's fine. I don't have a problem with him, but he's like everywhere. Anyway, I did really like this film. It's a good film. It's funny. Laurie Metcalf, fantastic in this movie as her mom. Always knew her from Roseanne, the Jackie days. She's still on Roseanne now, I guess. It's not called Roseanne, though. But Laurie Metcalf as the mother is so good. There's a lot of really other good supporting characters, but the daughter-mother relationship is really what this movie's about, and you just care for them. You want them to like stop arguing and love each other because you know they do. And it's just a really important, I think, touching mother-daughter movie that even I connected to. So Lady Bird is a great film. Coming in, though, at number 2, here at number 2 on the list. One that I know a lot of you did like, and I did too. Whoo! Finally! Let those claws out and shove it in for some blood. So cool to see that. So cool to see an R-rated Wolverine movie. Finally. Thank you, James Mangold. This was just, and then to not only get finally that moment where that opening moment where he's sleeping in the limo and he's all drunk and he's out of it and just freaks out and it freaks out everybody. It's such a visceral, raw action moment. But to finally like see Wolverine at his end of his rope and he's just done, he doesn't care, and everybody's been dead, and then you partner him with Charles Xavier as Patrick Stewart, who's going crazy because he's killed all the X-Men, and you're in this sort of new world where all the X-Men are gone and you're the only two left, and you just want to die. I mean, what a horrible but just crazy story. And then for them to figure out, let's give him a daughter. They do it such a cool way. And I did love that scene where he meets his clone, everything. It just unfolds in this awesome action-packed way, but then has so many really strong thematic elements that you're just about life and redemption and being a hero and giving up and all these things that it tackles. It's so beautifully done. Hugh Jackman gives a fantastic performance. Patrick Stewart gave a fantastic performance. And then Daphne Keane, wonderful debut performance as Laura. That ending made me bawl. It's just so well done. It's just a beautiful film. Such a perfect ending for Wolverine in this film. I understand why he wants to end it there. How do you cap that? You can't. It's just you can't come from that and then do something else. You go earlier, but I don't think you can end. The timeline needs to end with Logan. It's just so wonderfully done. And what a way to set Wolverine out into the sunset and let him have his way. That scene where Charles is mind in Vegas and then he's clawing through the hallways to get to him. It's just so well done. There's so many cool sequences, so many turns, wonderful performance, and just finally a character that we've watched and loved who's Hugh Jackman's always been the star of those movies, even in the bad ones, always pulls it off because I care for him so much and he's so cool and great as a character. But finally a showpiece for him to really pull out his claws and show them right. It just was so satisfying to see it. And then to see it in an R-rated adult drama. I wish we could get more of these. Joker, Logan, they've proved that this genre is just ripe to be told with really touching, cool stories. I hope it seems to have inspired more. I hope it continues to inspire even more. But wow, bravo work on this. It's a really fantastic superhero film. And you wouldn't think of it because it's sort of a superhero on the way out. But superpowers are in it, and it is a superhero film. So Logan, number 2 on my list. All right, now number 1. I'm not embarrassed to say it, but I know some of you are like, what? But this movie hit me at a time. You got to remember, I got to go back and explain. This was a tough year for me. It was a really tough year, 2017. And this movie, as schmaltzy as many of you say it is, and, this isn't the true story, and all these critiques that I get, I'm going to explain why. But this film, to this day, still holds up to me as a strong film for my personal decade, and that's The Greatest Showman. Look, I get it. It's not the true story of P.T. Barnum. I get it. I get that criticism, and I understand why some people are like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care. I still think it's a strong story. It's a strong story about a character who I related to tremendously. A character who never has enough, who's workaholic, creative visionary, who just doesn't know when he has it good and keeps screwing up. And he just keeps trying to outsell everybody. And it just completely hit me. It hit me at a time when I lost everything. And I was sitting there in that theater, and that sequence, oh my God, with Rebecca Ferguson, when she sings Never Enough, I literally almost died. So look, this is an emotional choice. It just connected to me at a raw and emotional level, and it hit me at a time where I needed it. I needed a slap in the face, and it is a sappy movie. I understand, but the music is so good. It is easily one of the best movie soundtracks in decades. And I got to call out these writers, Justin Paul, Benji Pasek. They are brilliant. They've written a lot of really good music. They wrote the Flash musical. They've done a bunch of stuff. If you go back and look at them, there, I cannot wait to see. I will go to any musical they write next. They are fantastic. They did some stuff. They did the Dear Evan Hansen music for that. I'm huge fans now, but that music is really what sets why this movie could have easily just been a good film for me, but it was the music. It was Hugh Jackman's performance. It was Rebecca Ferguson's performance. Even Zendaya and Zac Efron. Everybody's given it their all. It's a really, really well done film. It's just heartwarming. It's touching. It's a real adventure, like journey through these characters. And yes, it's not the true story of P.T. Barnum. I get it. But my God, it's still a really strong story. It's one that really spoke to me. Michelle Williams is so great in the small moment she does, but such an important role. And her scene, Tightrope, heartbreaking scene. I mean, A Million Dreams at opening is really strong. Every musical number becomes a stronger, iconic scene for me. And I've listened to this soundtrack so many times, it takes me back to the movie and the story. And again, like I said, it's a story to me of a creator who just doesn't know how to end, just to stop climbing that ladder. It's a story I know myself well and good. I kept climbing that ladder. I lost my way. I let the ego and the fame get to me. I did stuff I shouldn't have. Stupid idiot flirting with people I shouldn't have. He does it too. He walks the line. My point being, like, it related to me in a tremendous way, and I think it handles it beautifully. And the very end with the greatest show, and he's sitting there and he finally steps back and he realizes the greatest show is sitting there watching his family. It got me. It broke me. It made me realize that's what it's all about. And you can say it's sentimental, it's stupid. You can criticize me all you want. It's a beautiful film. It's a really beautiful story. And it really opened my eyes. And it's one I still hold dearly to me. So that's why The Greatest Showman is my favorite film of 2017. I'm sure it may not be yours, but if it is, stand up. Let's stand up and talk about how great that film, how awesome in the theater. I wanted to go to that sing-along, but I never got to go. But man, I love singing along to this movie. I love playing the soundtrack in my car sometimes. My God, guys, I mean, this is me. What a song! It is like, and there's like 5 of them in this movie. It's so rare for a movie musical to have that many original songs. Usually it's 1 or 2, and it's a Disney movie. I can't remember the last time I've been so invested and engrossed and replayed a movie musical. It's such a rarity these days. So bravo to this team and the director. I got to call out the director of this, Michael Gracie. What an impossible! This movie was They just were fighting it every step of the way. There's this really amazing scene where Hugh Jackman does the read through, and they have to get the funding of this movie. They've been working on it forever. This guy, Michael Gracie's been trying to do it forever. I think it was James Mangold even came in at some point to try and help him at the end, and then didn't take credit. Did it because Hugh Jackman's like, look, this guy's good. It's so close, but just help us get across the line is what the rumors were. But they still gave Michael Gracie all the props. And the film did okay, but then it had legs and kept going. But there was this moment, if you can find it on YouTube, where they're reading This Is Me, or I think it's From Now On. But there's this moment where they're going to the people who are going to fund this movie. Excuse me. They're going to like the studio and the money. And Hugh Jackman realizes he can't sing. He has cancer, and they're removing it. And I think it was his nose or mouth, whatever it was. And they're like, you can't sing. You can't sing. He's like, but I'm going to this pitch to like this movie I've been working on for years. Like, they're there to see me sing the songs. Like, no, you can't do it. And there's this From Now On, or whatever song they do. There's this scene where he's not supposed to sing. And This Is Me. You can watch that rehearsal too. You just feel it in the room. It's just everything clicks. And I just feel like it clicked in the theater. It clicked with me. It's just a beautiful moment. Anyway, to tell that end of the story, I went off a tangent. Sorry. Hugh Jackman's not supposed to sing, and then he has a stand-in there. But you can watch the clip, and he can't help himself. He's like, no, I'm going to do it. And he just sings it, and it's incredible. And he's bleeding while he's singing it. And it just shows how passionate Hugh was about this movie, how much he loves this movie. Logan and Greatest Showman, the year of 2017 was Hugh Jackman, without a doubt. Two different stories. Badass Logan, The Greatest Showman. I mean, bravo, Hugh Jackman. He is a legend, and both of those films were fantastic. It's true. Say what you will. But anyway, that's what I think. Greatest Showman as the film of 2017 for me. Tell me yours down below. I'd love to hear it in the comments, or hit me up on social media if you got your own stories to share. But thanks so much for watching. We got 2 more of these, and I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe I'll revisit another decade. It'd be fun to do someday. But tell me what you think down in the comments below. Give it a like, subscribe, all that engagement to keep me going. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.